Hi everybody, old guy here, and Tess decided to join us. That's made a little awkward, but this is the novel that we're going to be talking about today, called To Have and to Hold by Mary Johnston. And I've got, fairly decent copy of it that was released for, what does it say here, 400th anniversary of Jamestown commemorative edition. I think I ran across it in some bookstore somewhere, or maybe a thrift store, and it looked pretty nice, and I didn't really know anything about it. It had kind of an interesting description, so I read it. This was the best-selling novel in 1900 America, and if you take a look back at 1900 America, you can see why. America had just decided to take over China with the open door policy. The Boer War and Boxer rebellions were in full swing. Carrie Nation is smashing up saloons. We took Samoa, and at that time we were fighting the Filipino rebels. It's kind of a swashbuckling, white man's burden, manifest destiny kind of time. And this is a swashbuckling, white man's burden, stalwart and fearless and stiff upper lip kind of novel. Zeitgeist. So what's this about? Well, Captain Ralph Percy is a former soldier of fortune who fought quite a bit in the Netherlands, along with his manservant slash companion slash sycophant Diccon, D-I-C-C-O-N. After all that fighting, Percy has made his way to the Jamestown colony. Diccon at his side, and has put together quite a prosperous life with a tobacco plantation and a good fur trade with the local Pamunkey Indians, of whom he does not hold a very high opinion. Every once in a while getting into a dust-up with them, and then next day back to capitalism. Or is it mercantilism? It is a white patriarchy kind of world with the regularly scheduled beating of Diccon at any perceived or actual change in Percy's ever-evolving set of behavioral standards. Beating servants for perceived slights. What precedent is that starting? He reminds me of the kind of officer who walked around the barracks with a checklist and issued Article 15s. But give him his due, he is brave and reliable and a big supporter of the Jamestown colony, which fluctuates from hapless to thriving, depending on the governor in charge and the support from the Virginia Company. This is 1621, and Percy is friends with John Rolfe, the widower of Pocahontas, and several other documented Jamestown characters who pop up here and there, like missionary George Thorpe, who will beat his end during the Indian Massacre of 1622, and several fictional characters like the gentle giant of a separatist minister, Jeremy Sparrow. Hail fellow, well met! Except there's trouble in River City. Percy is without a wife, and there is a dearth of good, wholesome Christian white women in the neighborhood. Now what is a colony of randy, frustrated, and somewhat degenerate colonizers to do? Why, wait for a ship of maidens to appear on the horizon. These maidens, a term we shall use loosely, have left their orphanages and sculleries to become wives of whatever colonist who is willing to pay for them which at this point they are more than willing to pay for them, using sacks of tobacco. Marriages are performed almost as soon as the maidens clear the gangplank, and there is near riot as the more discerning maidens are poked and prodded and mobbed to the point they hastily select whoever is closest just to keep from being gang raped. One of these maidens is the haughty Jocelyn Lee, which is a good description of her. And she fends the amorous advances of several, shall we say, less than desirable colonists, until Percy, taken by the toss of her head and the fire in her eye, decides to rescue her by offering a bag of tobacco, which she accepts because, well, he showered. They are then married by the Reverend Sparrow right there in the field. Different times. But turns out that Jocelyn is a little bit more than some transported strumpet. She is a ward of King James himself, she has disguised herself and snuck on board the maiden ship to escape a forced marriage to the odious Lord Carnal. The name, of course, conveying his narcissistic Hellfire Club character. Carnal is a favorite of the king and has asked for Jocelyn as his wife, and, well, it's good to be a friend of the king. So, thwarted by her running off, he pursues her across the ocean and appears like Snidely Whiplash to spirit her back to England when he discovers she has married a commoner. And you know, swords are drawn, challenges made, and honors upheld. And then things get weird. There is a Peter Lorre kind of Italian poisoner who works for Carnal. And then there are kidnapping attempts and escapes in wooden boats across storm-tossed seas, and pirate crews that decide to make Percy their captain because, well, it goes with the plot, I suppose. After a time raiding Spanish ships with Carnal as a shipmate, there is shipwreck and capture by the new governor of Jamestown, and Percy is thrown in irons because the king can't believe the effrontery of some peasant marrying his ward and defying the Lord Carnal. And then the Indians attack. I was enjoying this until the stretching of credulity required to do so just got too much. And then it became just a period piece one reads for the experience. Not that it wasn't badly written, no, it's quite excellent. Because writers back then were much better at it, at least in slinging English phrases together. But sometimes logic gets defied and a novel falls into its own traps. In this case, it's the heroic Christian colonizer come to save the heathen world. Spare me. So who wrote this thing? Well, it was Mary Johnston, and she was born in 1870 in Buchanan, Virginia, and lived in Birmingham, Alabama, and Richmond, and Atlanta, and New York, due to the vagaries of her father's railroad career. She had a grand total of 3 months of formal education, but wrote 23 novels, numerous short stories, 2 epic poems, and a play. Them homeschoolers. She was also an early member of the Equal Suffrage League of Virginia and addressed Congress on the subject. Fearless. Guy here. See you later.